St Peter's Organic Best Bitter.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I've got another one from the St Peter's Brewery and it's their Organic Best Bitter. Now I have just tried the Waitrose own brand Ruby Ale. Pretty crap really, brewed by the Witchwood Brewery. It was a typical Marston's beer, just no aroma, no real flavour, just very, very boring. And I do make a point of trying most of the beers that become available from the supermarket range. Occasionally you will get one that's reasonable, but from my experience, on the whole, there are a couple of exceptions, don't get me wrong, but on the whole, they're really not good. And me, in my stupidity, did think that Waitrose would be a little cut above everyone else because they have a really good range of beers. They do stock good beers, so whoever buys the beer for Waitrose does have an idea about what they're doing. I mean, if you go into one of the big Waitrose stores, you'll see some really good beers in there, and it's where I discovered Weihenstephaner. I never would have discovered it if I hadn't have gone into the Waitrose when I was living in the hellhole that was Essex. And it surprises me that their own brand is that poor, but it's, you know, supermarket beers are all about cost and profit margins, and unfortunately 99 times out of 100 flavour gets sacrificed for that. So there you go, that's just my take. My point is, I've just tried it, I really wasn't impressed with it, so I am trying some of this stuff instead. Now I've tried the St Peter's Ruby Ale and I really liked it, and I'm going to try their bitter. I don't think I've had this before, and if you look at the review of the Ruby Ale, you'll see there's a pub in Clerkenwell that sells all their beer on cask, and they're really good beers, but they sell out quite quickly. I don't think I've tried this. I think I've just tried the Golden Ale on cask and the Ruby on cask as well. So this is, I think, going to be a first for me. It looks quite interesting though, and St Peter's generally do nice beer. The Plum Porter that I tried earlier in the year, that was really nice too. So they've got a reasonably good calibre, and as well they've got the unique bottles. If you look at them, they're like big medicine bottles, but they actually come from, the design comes from an American gin bottle from the 1800s, from Pennsylvania to be exact. I can't remember the name of the gin. It's in the Ruby Ale video. If you watch that, you will find out what that is. But I tend to find that the beers from this lot are pretty good. They're based in Suffolk, in rural Suffolk, where there is quite a few good brewers. Green King are based there, and there's a couple of other smaller brewers. If you look on Beers of Europe, they tend to sell beers from that locality, certainly from Norfolk and Suffolk. And there are some really good ones from that region. But as I say, the biggest one in that region is Green King. You've also got Adnams there as well. Now they're obviously not as big as Green King, but the quality of their beer far outstrips anything that Green King do. So for me, Adnams is probably one of the best brewers around there. But I like this stuff as well. So let's stop gassing and let's investigate this beer. Right, 500ml bottle. Made with, 500ml bottle, and it's 4.1%. Made with organic malt and hops. Now, them organic hops that I'm talking about are Sovereign hops, which are a British hop, and I imagine this lot is grown locally as well. Sovereign hops are quite interesting. They've got a lot of fruity flavours. They're like berries cherry as well. You also get, some people say you get like a green tea type flavour from them. I'm not a massive fan of green tea, to be honest. And to be honest, if it ain't a normal cup of tea, I ain't interested.
The entire British Empire was built on cups of tea. And if you think I'm going to war without one, mate, you're mistaken.
But my missus drinks green tea, and I've had a few sips out of it, and you know, if I had to drink it, then I would. But look at me, do I look like a geezer that's going to drink green tea? Don't answer that. Yeah, they're quite nice. They're typical British hop and sovereign hops, and they're earthy, and they have some spice on them as well. Now, the other hop that's in here are First Gold hops. Now, First Gold are, as the name would sort of suggest, they're very similar to the Goldings family of hops. So the East Kent Goldings, the big earth spice, you know, the traditional British hop that gives bitter its flavour. And them two hops combined, on paper, look like a really good combination, because the two hops do complement each other. The First Gold does give it the big spicy bitterness and the earthy notes, and the sovereign hops are going to give it the fruity aromas and flavours to it as well. So it's it looks like quite a good combination. So let's stop gassing and let's get it open. Okie dokie. Now, I must admit, I did chuck that Waitrose stuff down the sink. I just couldn't be bothered with it. It was a Marston's beer, and I've really got to be in the mood or have nothing left in the fridge to actually finish it. And I just thought, well, I'm not going to persevere with it. I really don't want to. I don't see the point. But there you go. There's the cap. Now that is a raven on the cap, and that raven signifies the Viking occupation of Suffolk. There were a lot of battles in Suffolk and Essex between the Saxons and the Vikings, and that raven on there and on the bottle as well. If you look there, it's got a raven on the side, quite like that. Oh, that's a bit, there you go, raven with the key. That's the key to some, is it some house, some big house there? Can't remember what it is. But let's get this into the glass and stop boring the shit out of you with historical nonsense. Oh, it's got a waft of almost like tea aromas. Oh, there's quite big aromas in there. That's what it looks like in the glass. It's an amber colour. Now, again, I hate to keep banging on about the Waitrose organic ruby ale brewed by Witchwood, but it was this colour. Now that's the colour I'd expect from a bitter, not a ruby ale. A ruby ale should be darker, or ruby as the name suggests. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop about that now. Well, yeah, some floral notes on this, and earthy notes too. It's like damp earth, if you can imagine that, in a good way, not in a bad way. Some grassy herbal notes on it too. Yeah, it doesn't smell too bad actually, but of course it's all down to the flavour. Wow, even more fruit on there now. It's quite sweeter fruit and a little bit of spice as well. Quite subtle though, I will say that. You have to sort of give it some to actually get the aromas. Here it is in the glass. I have to say the head retention on that is pretty good. I was going to mention the head on the Waitrose stuff, but I won't, because I've promised not to mention it anymore. There it is in the glass. That does look like a decent pint. 1.5 finger foamy white head. Nice dark amber, almost chestnut type colour on that. Minimal carbonation from what I can see. What are we getting on that? Yeah, it's minimal carbonation. Let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. Oh yeah, real big hops on this. This really is all about the hops. And that bitterness. Oh, and the tea as well. Yeah, I can get sort of that green tea mixing in with them herbal notes. There's big earth and spice on the finish, like black pepper, bitterness, and bitter earth as well. I mean, you wouldn't mistake this for anything else. This is a bitter. And it's quite nice, but it's quite fruity as well. Long lasting aftertaste too. Dive in again. And there's a sort of a sweet biscuit malt on there too. Biscuit malt, floral notes, fruit, like berry, fruit, red berries, cherry sort of. But the overriding flavour on this is earthy, spice, bitterness on the finish. And it's quite nice, I have to say. Typical British bitter. I mean, that really is. Nice biscuit malt. That biscuit malt does get bigger as it goes down. And I have to say, that is quite a pleasant bitter. With a little twist on it. A little fruity twist that does stand out. No caramel malt. This is just about the biscuit malt, fruit, earthiness, and the black pepper on the finish that makes it quite bitter. But there's a long lasting finish on that too. Quite liking this. It's really interesting, the cross section of flavours you get from this. Everything they say or everything connected with the characteristics of them hops really coming through in this, and it really does make for a nice pint of bitter. Now I've got this at what I would consider cellar temperature, so this is the ideal balance between getting them flavours out and making this quite refreshing too. But it's really nice. I cannot complain about that. That is typically British in its flavour. You wouldn't mistake this for any other country style of beer. This is British beer, or shall I say British bitter. Lovely floral notes on that too. Fruity, herbal, fragrant flower type. If you can imagine that. I'm trying to find the adjectives for it. But that really does come through. I have to say, not bad at all. So what's the verdict on St Peter's Organic Bitter? Yet another good one from the St Peter's Brewery. Now, as I said, I've tried the two before, the Plum Porter, reviewed them, really like that. Reviewed the Ruby Ale, really like that. And I have to say, the Organic Bitter, or Organic Best Bitter, is really good. It's not the best of best bitters that I've tried. There's certainly better out there. But this is not bad at all. I'm going to give that an 8.5. A solid 8.5, because there's nothing really bad about that. It's nice. I can only imagine that would taste really nice on cask, and it's quite moorish as well with that biscuit malt and bitter finish. But the bitterness is quite pronounced with that peppery black pepper bitterness on the finish. But yeah, very good indeed. The character of the hops, the two hops in this really does stand out. You're getting a lot of herbal and floral type flavours from it. Yeah, all good. 8.5 out of 10. Recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.